He just needed someone to clean up the mess in his apartment. Nothing more than that. But when she knelt on the living room floor, her small hands scrubbing each corner with an almost hypnotic calmness, Nathan felt something ignite inside him. Something he believed had been dead for years. She wasn't just the discreet neighbor from upstairs. There was danger in her eyes, a secret trapped in every gesture. As if with each swipe of the cloth, she was also cleaning away what remained of his sanity. If intense and unexpected love stories like this touch your heart, subscribe to our channel and comment what you thought. Every day we post new plots that move and surprise. Discover now the romance that no one dared to live. The Aurora building was on an ordinary street in an upper-middle-class neighborhood. One of those buildings aged by pollution and time, with peeling walls and corridors smelling of cheap disinfectant. Nathan Lowe had lived there for more than 10 years, in a modest two-bedroom apartment he had inherited from his mother. At 42, he led a gray life, literature teacher at a private school and text editor at night, alone since his divorce, dragging identical days and nights of insomnia in front of the television. The neighbors knew little about him, only that he was polite, closed off, somewhat bitter, and he made a point of keeping them at a distance. His routine broke on the day Rachel Winters moved into apartment 402, on the floor just above his. She was little more than 25 years old and had a discreet manner, simple but well-kept clothes, green eyes that never looked directly at anyone. She carried in her baggage a past that no one seemed to dare ask about, and an air of someone who didn't put down roots anywhere. On the doorman's recommendation, Nathan hired Rachel to help him with the weekly cleaning of the apartment, a convenient pretext for a man unable to deal with his own disorder, but also, he soon realized, to satisfy something much more intimate that he didn't even know how to name. When Rachel appeared at the door on the agreed morning, she wore a loose t-shirt, tight-worn jeans, and a loose bun that left strands of hair framing her delicate features. When she bent down to take off her shoes before entering, he noticed the gentle curve of her nape and felt his blood warm in a way he hadn't felt in years. She didn't notice, or pretended not to notice, his gaze lingering on her small, agile hands, which were already hurrying to gather cloths and cleaning products in a grocery bag. At first, Nathan tried to disguise it, withdrawing to the bedroom while she cleaned the living room. But the tension was unbearable, almost physical. The sound of the brush on the floor, the creaking of the boards under her knees, the low, concentrated breathing. He found excuses to move around the house, just to observe her in glimpses, the shape of her body flexing over the floor, her t-shirt sometimes rising and revealing a piece of skin at the waist. Each week, the atmosphere became denser, more electric, like an exposed wire. The first time something really happened was on a rainy afternoon, when the dim light came through the window and she knelt to clean the base of the bookshelf. The citrus scent of disinfectant hung in the air. He approached without thinking and knelt beside her, saying something trivial. But his hand brushed hers, and Rachel raised her face with a look that both burned and froze at the same time. It was she who broke the distance. She leaned slightly, as if surrendering to an impulse impossible to contain, and his lips met hers with an almost violent hunger. The kiss was urgent, reckless, wet with desire and forbidden. When they pulled back, she was breathless and flushed, but didn't say anything, just lowered her eyes, composing herself, before returning to work as if nothing had happened. The following week, Nathan found by chance in one of the trash bags she had left separated a torn envelope with a photograph fallen on the kitchen floor. In the photo, Rachel smiled in a rural setting, embracing an unknown man, dark-haired with tattoos on his arm. On the back, a hurried handwriting, "Don't think you can hide from me." Nathan felt an icy stab in the pit of his stomach. When he confronted her, she just snatched the photo from his hand with a sad smile and an enigmatic murmur. "You wouldn't understand." But her look at that moment, half frightened, half provocative, incited him even more. Not just carnal desire, but also the almost obsessive need to discover her, to protect her, to possess all her secrets. The encounters began to become more daring, more intimate. With each visit she made, a new limit was crossed. He would push her against the narrow wall of the hallway, whisper promises and orders in her ear, feel her hands pressing his back forcefully. She would let herself be carried away with an intensity that left him on the verge of madness, sometimes submissive, sometimes fierce. There was something in her surrender that always seemed to contain a scream, as if loving that way was a greater risk than he imagined, and he no longer knew if he wanted to save her or sink with her. The tension reached its peak one night when he returned home and found the apartment door ajar. The lights off, the metallic smell of blood in the air. Rachel was lying on the living room floor with a cut on her arm and her t-shirt torn, holding the same envelope now empty. Her eyes, seeing him, filled with held-back tears. She whispered only, "He found me." Then she fainted in his arms. Nathan took care of her wounds that night, and for the first time realized that there was something deeper than passion and lust uniting them. An invisible thread, made of pain, fear, desire, and a type of love as fierce as it was dangerous. But even so, even with the suspicion burning inside him, he couldn't push her away. That same dawn, when she woke up and pulled him to her, he loved her on the living room sofa as if it were the last time, with a feverish desperation, hands and lips exploring every inch of her, as if trying to engrave her forever in his memory. The next morning, he woke up alone. Rachel had disappeared. On the kitchen table, a note written in her small handwriting. "If you want to save me, come find me. But know this, maybe I no longer deserve to be saved." Nathan stood in front of the note for long minutes, feeling a mixture of anger, desire, and fear of what he would find. He knew, with a suffocating clarity, that from now on there was no turning back. She was his abyss, and he was willing to jump. He spent the rest of the morning searching her apartment, which he found empty, with signs of a hasty exit. Open drawers, scattered clothes, some papers burned in the sink. Among the debris, he found a crumpled business card. Marcus Taylor, private security, with an address in the city center. His heart raced. That had to be the man in the photo, the ghost that haunted her. Nathan wasn't a man of confrontations, but there was something about Rachel that awakened a primitive, almost savage instinct in him. He dressed quickly and took the car, driving through the busy streets of Boston with a determination he hadn't felt in years. The address led him to a decaying commercial building, with slow elevators and poorly lit corridors. Marcus's office was on the 5th floor, a cramped room with cheap furniture and the persistent smell of cigarettes. The man who received him was exactly like in the photo. Dark-skinned, muscular, with tattoos climbing up his neck and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When Nathan asked about Rachel, Marcus laughed with disdain. "So you're the love-struck professor," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Rachel talked about you. Said you were a naive man, kind of pathetic." The provocation hit Nathan like a punch to the stomach, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Where is she?" "Safe place, away from men like you." Marcus lit a cigarette and blew the smoke in his direction. "I'll be direct. Rachel owes me a lot of money. Money she stole to run away from me. Now that I've found her, she'll have to pay one way or another." "How much?" $50,000. The figure fell like a bomb. Nathan earned little more than $4,000 a month. "But don't worry, Professor. She's always been creative about getting money. Very creative." The insinuation made Nathan's blood boil. "Are you talking about prostitution?" "I'm talking about survival. Rachel always knew how to get by. Until she met you and started dreaming about this middle-class life." Marcus stood up, approaching with a threatening expression. "But dreams don't pay debts, and love-struck men don't either." Nathan felt the world spin around him. Everything was starting to fit together. The sudden move to the building, the always frightened eyes, the way she gave herself to him with a desperation that seemed like someone saying goodbye. Rachel wasn't just an ordinary woman with a complicated past. She was a woman fleeing from something much more dangerous. "She was trying to start over," said Nathan, his voice trembling. "You can't force her to return to that life." "Force?" Marcus laughed again. "Professor, you don't understand. Rachel was born for this. It's what she does best. I'm just offering an opportunity for her to pay off the debt doing what she's always done. And if I get the money, you?" The man evaluated him from head to toe. "Private school teacher? Don't make me laugh, but I'll be generous. I'll give you a week to arrange half. 25,000. The rest Rachel pays in her way." Nathan left there with shaky legs and his heart pounding in his chest. $25,000. More money than he had in his entire savings account. More money than he could gather in years. But for Rachel, for that woman who had awakened in him something he thought was dead forever, he would do anything. Over the next few days, Nathan transformed into a man he didn't recognize. He sold his car, pawned his father's watch, borrowed money from work colleagues, inventing excuses about medical treatment. He even considered robbing the school where he worked, but didn't have the courage. At the end of the week, he had managed to gather only $8,000. That's when he received a phone call. Rachel's voice, low and tired, speaking from an unknown number. "Nathan, don't try to find me. It's not worth it." "Rachel, where are you? I talked to Marcus. I'm gathering the money." "You don't understand. It's not just about money. It never was." She sighed, and he could imagine the tears running down her face. "I didn't want you to get involved in this. I didn't want you to see me like this." "Like what?" "Broken, dirty, hurt." Her voice failed. "He found me that night in your apartment. Since then I've been paying what I owe, the way he wants." Nathan felt such intense anger that he wanted to break the phone. "Where are you, Rachel? I'll come get you now." "You can't. But there's something I need to tell you. About us. About what I feel for you." She took a deep breath. "I love you, Nathan. For the first time in my life, I truly love someone. And that's why I can't let you destroy yourself because of me. Rachel, listen. There is a way. But you need to trust me. Completely." Her voice became firmer. "Tomorrow night, Marcus will be at a warehouse in the east side. He always goes there to collect money from the girls, alone. It's the only chance we have." "You're talking about doing what?" "I'm talking about getting rid of him. Forever." The phone went silent. Nathan looked at the device, feeling his heart racing. Rachel was proposing that they kill Marcus. The idea was terrible, but also liberating. There was no other way out of that situation. There was no way to get the money, no way to convince Marcus to leave her alone. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He kept walking around the apartment, imagining Rachel in the hands of that man, being forced to do things he didn't even want to think about. The anger grew inside him like a tumor, fueled by the sick and obsessive love he felt for her. By the time the sun rose, he had already made his decision. He would do anything to save Rachel. Anything. The determination grew throughout the day. Nathan spent the hours planning, researching the address Rachel had mentioned, buying the things he thought he would need. He wasn't a violent man by nature, but Rachel had awakened something primitive in him, something he didn't know existed. When night came, he was ready to cross a line from which there would be no return, ready to become a man he didn't recognize for a woman who might not even be who he thought she was. But it didn't matter. Rachel was his now, and he was hers, and nothing, not the law, not morality, not fear itself, would separate them. The warehouse was in an abandoned industrial area of the east side, surrounded by empty warehouses and poorly lit streets. Nathan arrived there at 9 at night, with his heart beating so hard it seemed like it would explode in his chest. He had spent the entire afternoon rehearsing what he would do, but now, standing in front of that gloomy building, he felt his legs weaken. He had never hurt anyone in his life, had never even been involved in a fight, and now he was there, holding a heavy wrench inside a backpack, ready to commit murder. The side door of the warehouse was ajar, as Rachel had promised. He entered slowly, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. The place smelled of mold and motor oil, with piles of old boxes scattered around the corners and a fluorescent light flickering on the ceiling. In the background, he could hear low voices. He followed the sound until he found an improvised partition made of plywood. Through the crack, he saw Marcus sitting behind a desk, counting stacks of money. Alone, exactly as Rachel had said. The man was distracted, absorbed in counting, a half-empty bottle of whiskey next to the papers. Nathan took a deep breath and emerged from the shadow. "Marcus." The man raised his head, surprised. When he recognized Nathan, he smiled with disdain. Well, the love-struck professor. Did you come to bring my money?" "I came to get Rachel." "Oh, really?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, still smiling. "And where's my money?" "I don't have all the money, but I can get it. I just need you to leave her alone." Professor. Marcus shook his head. "You don't understand how the world works, do you? Debt is paid with money, or with other things. Rachel chose other things. She didn't choose anything. You're forcing her." "Forcing?" Marcus laughed loudly. "What forcing? Rachel has always been a whore, only now she's being a whore with a purpose, paying what she owes." The word hit Nathan like a slap. Anger rose up his throat, hot and viscous. "Don't talk about her like that. I'll talk about her however I want. She's mine now. Mine to do whatever I want, whenever I want." Marcus stood up, approaching with a cruel expression. "You know what she told me yesterday? That she liked me better than you. That professors were very boring in bed." Nathan knew it was a lie, but still felt the world collapse. The image of Rachel in that man's arms, moaning his name, drove him out of his mind. Without thinking, he pulled the wrench from the backpack and advanced. Marcus was faster. He grabbed Nathan's wrist with one hand and with the other hit him in the stomach. Nathan doubled over in pain, losing his breath. The wrench fell to the floor with a metallic noise. "Pathetic," said Marcus, kicking the tool away. "You really thought you could face me? Real men solve things with their fists, not with tools." Nathan was still bent over, trying to breathe, when he heard Rachel's voice. "Let him go, Marcus." She was standing at the entrance, wearing a short skirt and a low-cut blouse that Nathan had never seen her wear. Her face was heavily made up, eyes lined with black, red lips. She looked like a different person, harder, colder. "Rachel," Nathan murmured. "You arrived just in time," said Marcus, smiling. "Your boyfriend here came trying to play the hero. Thought he could kill me with a wrench." Rachel looked at Nathan with an expression he couldn't decipher. "You shouldn't have come. I couldn't leave you with him." "How sweet," Marcus laughed. "The love-struck professor. Rachel, show him how you thanked me earlier today." She approached Marcus and kissed him on the mouth, a long, wet kiss that made Nathan feel like vomiting. When they separated, she whispered something in his ear that made him smile. "Very good," said Marcus. "Since you're here, Professor, how about watching a little show? Rachel, show him how you make me happy." "No," Nathan murmured. "Rachel, please." She looked at him for a moment and he thought he saw something like pity in her eyes. Then she turned to Marcus and began to take off her blouse slowly, sensually. Nathan closed his eyes, but Marcus forced him to open them. "Look, Professor, look closely. This is your real Rachel, not the little saint you met." Rachel was now only in her bra and skirt, her body illuminated by the flickering light. She approached Marcus and began to unbutton his shirt, kissing his neck. The man moaned with pleasure, his hands exploring her body with brutality. Nathan felt something die inside him. It wasn't just jealousy or betrayal. It was the discovery that perhaps he had never really known Rachel. Perhaps she was exactly what Marcus said, a prostitute who had pretended to be something else. That's when she looked at him over Marcus's shoulder and winked. It was a quick wink, almost imperceptible, but Nathan understood. It was a signal. She was pretending. The relief was so intense he almost shouted. Rachel hadn't betrayed him. She was acting, playing some kind of game to distract Marcus. But for what? The answer came when she bent down to remove her skirt, and in the movement grabbed a knife that was hidden in her boot. In a quick and precise gesture, she buried it in Marcus's back. The man screamed in pain and surprise, trying to reach the wound. Rachel moved away, breathing heavily. Marcus turned to her, his eyes full of hatred. "You bitch!" He advanced, but Nathan reacted. He picked up the wrench from the floor and hit Marcus in the head. The man staggered, blood running down his face. Rachel took the opportunity to attack again, but this time Marcus managed to dodge and pushed her against the wall. "You two are going to die," he growled, pulling a pistol from his holster. Nathan didn't think. He ran toward him, and the two fell to the floor, fighting for control of the gun. Rachel got up and tried to help, but Marcus kicked her in the stomach. She fell, moaning. The fight continued on the floor, the two men rolling among blood and dirt. Nathan knew he was no match for Marcus in terms of strength, but the anger made him fight with a desperation he didn't know he possessed. Finally, he managed to turn the barrel of the pistol toward Marcus. The shot echoed in the warehouse like thunder. Marcus remained motionless for a moment, eyes wide. Then, a stream of blood ran from his mouth. Nathan moved away, horrified. He had killed a man. Rachel crawled to him, both of them panting and covered in blood. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No, I don't think so." Nathan looked at Marcus's body, which wasn't moving anymore. My God, Rachel, I killed him. You saved us, she said, hugging him. Saved us both. They stayed there embraced for a few minutes, trembling from shock and adrenaline. Nathan smelled her hair, mixed with the metallic smell of blood. He had never felt so close to another person, nor so far from himself. We need to get out of here, Rachel finally said. Someone might have heard the shot. And the body? Leave it here. This place is abandoned. It might take days to find. They dressed quickly. Rachel took the money that was on the table and stuffed it in her purse. This will help us disappear for a while. Disappear? Nathan, we just killed a man. Do you think we can go home as if nothing happened? Reality fell on him like an avalanche. There was no turning back. He had crossed a line he didn't know existed, had become a murderer, and all for Rachel. They left the warehouse hand in hand, walking quickly through the deserted streets. Nathan felt as if he were in a dream or a nightmare. Everything seemed unreal. The blood on the clothes, the smell of gunpowder, the weight of what he had done. Where are we going? He asked. I have a place, an apartment that Marcus didn't know about. We can stay there until we decide what to do. The apartment was in a housing project on the south side, a small stuffy room on the top floor of a building with no elevator. Rachel opened the door with a key she took from inside her purse. How did you know he would be alone? Asked Nathan while she turned on the lights. Because I planned this for weeks, since he found me. Rachel sat on the bed, suddenly looking very tired. I knew I wouldn't get the money. I knew he would never leave me alone. The only solution was to kill him. And me? Was I part of the plan? Rachel looked at him with eyes full of tears. In the beginning, yes. I thought of using you. But then, she stopped, as if she couldn't find the words. Then I really fell in love with you, and everything changed. Everything you told me about your past. It was true, or almost true. I really ran away from Marcus. He really forced me to prostitute myself. But I wasn't an innocent victim, Nathan. I chose that life, in the beginning. Chose it because it was easy, because it paid well, because I didn't know how to do anything else. Nathan sat beside her on the bed. And now? Now I know I want to be someone else. I want to be the person you see in me. She took his hand. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I deserve it. You deserve it, he said, kissing her. We both deserve a chance to start over. They made love that night with a desperate intensity, as if it were the last time. Nathan possessed her with a hunger that bordered on violence, and she surrendered with an abandonment that seemed to contain all the pain in the world. When they finished, they lay embraced in the dark, listening to the noises of the city outside. There's one more thing, said Rachel in the early morning. About Marcus, about the money he said I stole. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does, because that's not exactly how it happened. She took a deep breath. I worked for him for 2 years, not just as a prostitute. He used me for other things, blackmailing important clients, stealing information, getting secrets. I was good at it. Nathan felt a chill. What kind of secrets? All kinds. Politicians, businessmen, judges. Marcus had a scheme. I would seduce the guys, take them to a hotel, record everything. Then he would use the recordings to blackmail them. And you stole these recordings? I stole them. Rachel turned to him. Because one of them was of someone I knew, someone who didn't deserve to be blackmailed. Who? My father. The revelation hit him like a punch. Rachel continued, her voice choked. He abandoned me when I was 15. I never spoke to him again. But I found out he had remarried, had children, a respectable life. When I saw the recording of him with one of Marcus's girls, I couldn't let that happen. I stole all the recordings and ran away. Where are these recordings? Hidden. In a safe place. Rachel got up, went to an old piece of furniture, and took out a small key. In a safety deposit box downtown. There are more than 100 recordings, Nathan. Politicians, judges, businessmen, powerful people. Nathan began to understand the true dimension of the problem. That's why Marcus was hunting you. It wasn't just for the money. No, it was for the recordings. They're worth millions. And now they're ours. Ours? We can use them to buy our freedom. Or our death if we're not careful. Rachel returned to the bed, hugging him. Marcus was just the beginning. Other people will come after these recordings. People much more dangerous than him. Nathan felt the world spin. He had killed a man, was running from the police, and now discovered he was in the middle of a blackmail scheme involving powerful people, all for a woman he had just really gotten to know. But when he looked at Rachel, naked beside him, her hair spread on the pillow, he knew he had no regrets. He would do it all again, would kill as many as necessary. "What do we do now?" he asked. "Now?" Rachel smiled, a sad and beautiful smile. "Now we run, far away, and try to be happy before they find us. And if they find us, then we fight. Together." Nathan kissed her, knowing he was sealing his fate. There was no turning back. They were fugitives now, united by blood and love, against the entire world. And for the first time in years, he felt truly alive. 3 weeks later, Nathan and Rachel were living like ghosts in a small town in upstate Vermont. They had rented an isolated cabin in the mountains, paying in cash, using fake names. Nathan had shaved his beard and dyed his hair black. Rachel had cut her hair short and wore dark sunglasses even inside the house. They lived in constant alert, sleeping little, startling at any strange noise. The money Rachel had taken from Marcus was running out. They needed to make a decision about the recordings, but every time they touched on the subject, she changed the conversation. Nathan was beginning to suspect there were more things she wasn't telling him. The answer came on a rainy morning when he woke up and found Rachel on the phone, speaking softly in the kitchen. She hung up quickly when she saw him. "Who was that?" he asked. "No one. Wrong number." But Nathan had heard part of the conversation. Rachel was negotiating something, talking about delivery and payment. His heart raced. "Rachel, who were you talking to?" "Nathan, please, trust me." "How can I trust you if you don't tell me the truth?" Rachel sighed, looking defeated. "It was a buyer. For the recordings." "You're selling the recordings?" "One recording, just one. The most valuable." She sat at the table, avoiding his gaze. "It's of a very well-known congressman, caught receiving a bribe from a contractor. It's worth a lot of money." "How much money?" $200,000. Nathan felt as if he had been punched. It was more money than he had seen in his entire life. "And you decided this alone?" "I was trying to protect us. With this money we can leave the country, go to Canada or Mexico. Really start over." "Rachel, you don't understand. If we start selling these recordings, we'll become permanent targets. They'll come after us to the ends of the earth." "We're already targets," she exploded. "Since we killed Marcus, we're already targets. At least this way we'll have money to defend ourselves." The discussion was interrupted by the sound of cars approaching. They looked at each other, terrified. Nathan ran to the window and saw 3 black cars coming up the dirt road. "Shit, they found us." Rachel was already running to the bedroom, grabbing a backpack with fake documents and money. "Back door, now." They ran through the kitchen, but the front door opened with a bang. Armed men entered, shouting for them to surrender. Nathan recognized one of them. It was Andy, one of Marcus's henchmen he had seen in a photo at the office. "This way," whispered Rachel, guiding him to a back window. They jumped and ran toward the dense forest that surrounded the cabin. Behind them, they heard shouts and gunshots. They ran through the forest for hours, stumbling on roots, scratching themselves on branches. When they finally stopped to rest, it was getting dark. They were lost, tired, and terrified. "How did they find us?" asked Nathan, breathless. "I don't know. Maybe they tracked the phone." Rachel was crying. "Or maybe someone betrayed us." "Who?" "The buyer. The person I was negotiating the recording with." She leaned against a tree, desperate. "Nathan, I did a terrible thing." "What?" "To prove I really had the congressman's recording, I showed a piece to the buyer. A short video, just for him to see it was real." "So what?" "So the buyer was Andy. He was pretending to be someone else." Rachel sobbed. "I handed us over to them." Nathan felt such intense anger that he wanted to scream. But when he saw the desperation on Rachel's face, the anger transformed into something more complex. She had tried to protect them and ended up putting them in even greater danger. But she was his now, for better or worse. "Where are the other recordings?" he asked. "In the safety deposit box in Boston. Only I know where it is." "Then we still have a card up our sleeve." Nathan pulled her to him. "Let's go back to Boston. Let's get those recordings and use them against them." "Nathan, have you gone crazy? They'll be waiting for us." "Exactly why they won't expect us to return." He kissed her, tasting the salty taste of her tears. "Trust me now, like I trusted you." It took them 2 days to reach Boston, traveling by bus, changing transportation several times, always using fake documents. When they finally arrived in the city, Nathan almost didn't recognize it. It seemed smaller, grayer, as if it had lost its life. The bank where the safety deposit box was located was downtown, on a busy street. They observed for hours, looking for signs of surveillance. When Rachel finally decided it was safe, they entered together. The safety deposit box was full of flash drives, photographs, and documents. Rachel took everything and stuffed it in a bag. "There. Now we own the secrets of half the government. And what do we do with that? We sell them. To the highest bidder." Rachel smiled, but it was a sad smile. "It's the only way to get enough money to disappear forever. And if they don't accept, and if they try to kill us instead of paying, then we fight." She repeated the words she had said weeks before. Together. The meeting was set for the next night in an abandoned warehouse in the port area. Nathan suggested that Rachel stay hidden, but she refused. "We started this together. We'll finish it together." When they arrived at the location, they saw that it wasn't just Andy waiting for them. There were other men, and in the center of the group, a woman in a dark suit and an icy expression. "Rachel Winters," said the woman when they approached. "Finally we meet. Who are you?" "Agent Christina Morales, FBI." The woman showed her identification. "We've been investigating Marcus Taylor's blackmail scheme for over a year." Nathan felt the world collapse. "Your police?" "Some of us, yes. Others are private interested parties." The agent pointed to Andy. "Andy, for example, works for one of the men in the recordings, a very powerful businessman who doesn't like being blackmailed. And what do you want?" "The recordings. All of them. In exchange, you can leave the country. New documents, clean passports, enough money to start over anywhere." Rachel squeezed Nathan's hand. "And if we refuse? Then you'll be arrested for homicide, or die right here trying to escape." The agent smiled coldly. "The choice is yours. We need time to think. You have 5 minutes." Nathan and Rachel moved away a bit, whispering to each other. "It's a trap," he said. "If we hand over the recordings, they'll kill us anyway." "I know. But if we don't hand them over, we'll also die. Then we need to think of a third option." That's when Rachel smiled, a smile that Nathan recognized. It was the same smile she had when planning something dangerous. "Rachel, what are you thinking? Remember what I told you about the recordings? That there were more than 100? "I remember. I lied." She opened the bag showing the flash drives. "I have more than 300. And some of them are of this agent and of Andy." Nathan's eyes widened. "You have recordings of them?" Marcus was very careful. He recorded everyone who worked for him, including corrupt cops. Rachel picked up a specific flash drive. "This one here is of the agent with a known drug dealer. And this other one is of Andy receiving money from the businessman. So we have them too." "Exactly." Rachel put the flash drives away. "Now it's our turn to blackmail." They returned to the group. The agent was looking at her watch. "Decided?" "We've decided," said Rachel. "But the proposal has changed." "What do you mean?" Rachel showed the 2 flash drives. "These here are of you two. The agent with Carmine from the drug trade, Andy receiving dirty money from his boss." Their expressions immediately changed. The agent turned pale. Andy clenched his fists. "Where did you get that?" "Marcus was very smart. Recorded everyone." Rachel smiled. "And now we have the cards on the table. You let us go with money and clean documents. In exchange, these recordings disappear forever. And the others?" "The others too, all of them. You'll never hear from us or these recordings again." The agent and Andy looked at each other. Nathan could see they were calculating their options. "How much do you want?" the agent finally asked. $500,000. Each. Rachel didn't hesitate. "And new passports. 1 million in total. That's a lot of money. It's the price of freedom. For all of us." There was a long silence. Nathan held his breath, knowing their lives depended on the answer. Finally, the agent nodded. "I accept. But we want all the recordings, and a guarantee that you'll never return to the United States." "I accept too." The deal was closed right there. 3 days later, Nathan and Rachel were on a plane to Buenos Aires, with new identities and $1 million in an offshore account. All the flash drives had been handed over and destroyed in front of the buyers. During the flight, Nathan looked at Rachel, who was sleeping against his shoulder. He still couldn't believe they were free, that they had managed to get out alive from all that madness. "Rachel," he whispered, waking her up. "What is it? Did you really hand over all the recordings?" She smiled, that smile he was learning to fear and love at the same time. "Almost all." "Almost? I kept one, for future emergencies." She showed a last flash drive, which she had hidden in her underwear. "You never know when we might need an ace up our sleeve." Nathan laughed, shaking his head. Rachel would always be Rachel. Dangerous, unpredictable, always one step ahead. But she was his now, and he was hers. Who was it of? A Supreme Court justice, in a hotel with 2 underage girls. Nathan felt a chill. "Rachel, that's very dangerous. That's exactly why it's worth so much." She put the flash drive away again. "But we won't use it, unless it's absolutely necessary. Promise?" "I promise." She kissed him. Now we're just 2 normal people, trying to be happy in a new city. But Nathan knew they would never be normal. What they had lived, what they had done together, had changed them forever. They were 2 lovers in crime, united by blood and secrets, fleeing to a new life. And for the first time since it all began, he didn't care. Rachel was his crime, and he was hers. And that was all that mattered. The plane cut through the clouds heading south, taking them away from the past, toward an uncertain but finally free future. Nathan closed his eyes and allowed himself to dream of the life they would have together. A life built on lies and violence, but also on a love so intense it had been able to survive anything. When he woke up, they would be in another country, with other names, ready to start again. And this time, nothing and no one would separate them. Buenos Aires welcomed them with rain and cold wind. Nathan and Rachel, now David and Carmen Rodriguez according to their new documents, rented a small apartment in the San Telmo neighborhood, on a cobblestone street where the sound of tango escaped through open windows during the early morning. For the first time in months, they were able to sleep without startling, without waking up at every noise from the street. The first months were like an endless honeymoon. With the money they had, they didn't need to work immediately. They spent their days walking around the city, discovering hidden cafes, dancing tango in small milongas, where no one asked questions about the past. Nathan taught Rachel to speak Spanish with a porteño accent, and she taught him to live without fear of the future. They made love in every room of the apartment with a passion that seemed to grow each day. Nathan discovered that Rachel had a small scar on her back, in the shape of a crescent moon, which she said was from a childhood fall. He kissed that mark every night like a sacred ritual. Rachel discovered that Nathan murmured poems in English when he was about to climax, and she began to memorize each verse, recording them in her memory as if they were eternal vows of love. But peace didn't last forever. 6 months after their arrival, Nathan began to notice subtle changes in Rachel. She spent hours on the phone, always speaking in English or Spanish, always ending the call when he approached. Sometimes she would leave in the middle of the night, saying she was going to the pharmacy or the market, and would return hours later with empty hands and a distant look. One night, he followed her. Rachel went downtown and entered an expensive hotel in the Recoleta neighborhood. Nathan waited across the street, his heart pounding in his chest. Half an hour later, she came out accompanied by an older man in a suit with graying hair. They kissed on the mouth before separating. Nathan returned home before her, pretending to sleep when she arrived. But he spent the entire night awake, with the image of that kiss burning in his retina. "Rachel," he said the next morning during breakfast, "I need to ask you something." "Sure. Are you cheating on me?" The question caught her by surprise. She almost dropped her coffee cup. "What?" "I saw you yesterday, with a man. You kissed." Rachel was silent for a long moment. Then she sighed, as if making a difficult decision. "I'm not cheating on you, Nathan. I'm working." "Working? At what?" "At what I've always worked at. Seducing powerful men to get information." She avoided his gaze. "The man you saw is an Argentine banker. Rich, influential, married. He's involved in a money laundering operation." Nathan felt the world spin. "Rachel, we talked about this. You said you wanted to be someone else." "And I do. But I also want security. I want to be sure that we'll never have to run again, never be without money again. She stood up, pacing around the kitchen like a caged animal. That's why I'm doing it one more time, just one more time. And then we stop, forever. I swear. But Nathan knew Rachel too well to believe. What kind of information are you looking for? Bank account numbers, transfer codes, information we can sell to his competition. Rachel sat down beside him, taking his hands. Nathan, this man moves millions of dollars a week. If we get the right information, we'll never have to work again in our lives. And if we get it wrong, if they discover us, they won't discover us. I'm good at this. Nathan wanted to believe. Wanted to trust that this time would be different, that Rachel could stop after getting what she wanted. But deep in his heart, he knew it was a lie. Rachel was addicted to the adrenaline, to the danger, to the power she felt when manipulating powerful men. She would never be able to stop. All right, he finally said, but I'm going with you. What do you mean? The next time you meet him, I'll be nearby, to protect you. Rachel laughed. Nathan, you're a teacher. You don't know anything about espionage. Then teach me. And that's how Nathan found himself 2 weeks later sitting in the bar of a 5-star hotel, pretending to read a newspaper while watching Rachel have dinner with the banker at a table in the back. She was stunning, wearing a black dress he had bought for her, her loose hair falling over her bare shoulders. The man couldn't take his eyes off her. Nathan saw the way Rachel touched the man's arm, how she tilted her head when she laughed, how she played with her hair while talking. She was acting, he knew, but he still felt jealous. Those gestures, those smiles were his, only his. The night was a success. Rachel got the banker to take her to his office after dinner, under the pretext of showing her the view of the city. While he prepared drinks, she photographed important documents that were on the desk. She returned home with enough information to ruin the man. I did it, she said, showing the photos on her phone. Swiss accounts, suspicious movements, names of politicians involved. It's worth at least $2 million. Nathan looked at the photos, feeling both proud and nauseated. Who are you going to sell it to? To a Mexican cartel that's in a commercial war with him. I already have contact. Rachel, you're talking about cartels. People who kill for much less than this. That's exactly why they pay so well. She kissed him, a wet and urgent kiss. Trust me, this one more and we stop. Forever. But Nathan knew it was a lie. It would always be one more. There would always be a last time, an unmissable opportunity, a target that was worth the risk. The sale was set for the following week at a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Nathan insisted on going along, and this time Rachel didn't protest. She seemed nervous, tenser than normal. Is there something you're not telling me? He asked in the car on the way to the meeting. It's nothing. Rachel. All right. She sighed. The banker discovered that someone photographed his documents. He's offering a reward for information. How much? $500,000. Nathan pulled the car over to the side of the road. Rachel, are you crazy? If he discovers it was you, he won't discover. And even if he does, we'll be far away from here. She put her hand on his face. Nathan, this is it. This is our chance to be truly rich. Rich enough to buy our own island, if we want. I don't want an island. I want you, alive, and you'll have me. I promise. The warehouse was in a deserted industrial area, surrounded by empty warehouses and poorly lit streets. Nathan felt a terrible déjà vu. It was exactly like the place where they had killed Marcus. History repeating itself. The Mexicans were already waiting, 3 men in expensive suits and hard expressions, around a table where there were 2 open briefcases. Money. A lot of money. Rachel handed over a flash drive with the information. They quickly verified it, nodding in approval. Everything seemed to be going well. That's when the warehouse doors opened and armed men entered from all sides. Argentine Federal Police, everyone on the ground. The shooting started immediately. The Mexicans pulled out their guns, returning fire. Nathan pulled Rachel behind some boxes, protecting her with his body while bullets flew over their heads. How did they know? He shouted over the noise. I don't know. Rachel was pale, terrified, but Nathan was beginning to suspect. Rachel, the flash drive you handed over, was it the only one? Yes, Why? Are you sure? You didn't keep a copy? Her silence was the answer. Nathan felt such intense anger that he almost left her there. You kept a copy and sold it to the police too. Nathan, I can explain. You sold us. Sold all of us. No. I was just trying to guarantee our safety. The police offered me immunity in exchange for the information. Nathan couldn't believe it. Rachel had planned everything from the beginning. The affair with the banker, the sale to the Mexicans, everything was to get to this moment. She was trying to definitively get rid of her past, turning in all the criminals to the police. And me? He asked. Was I also included in your bargain? Of course not. You're innocent. You're here only because of me. The shooting continued. One of the Mexicans had been hit and was moaning on the floor. The police shouted orders in Spanish. We need to get out of here, said Nathan. Where to? They've surrounded the building. Nathan looked around, searching for an exit. He saw a high window almost at the ceiling. There, we can climb up the boxes. They ran crouched, avoiding the bullets. Nathan helped Rachel climb up first, then followed her. The window opened onto an alley behind the warehouse. They jumped and ran to the car. They drove through the city in silence, both in shock. Nathan couldn't process what had happened. Rachel had lied to him once again. She had used all of them, the Mexicans, the police, even him, to get what she wanted. Where are we going? She finally asked. Home, to get our passports and leave the country. Nathan, forgive me, I was just trying. No. He stopped the car abruptly. Don't try to justify yourself. You lied to me, again. I love you. You love what I represent. Stability, security, someone who will always forgive you, no matter what you do. Nathan turned to her, his eyes full of pain. But I'm not your doormat, Rachel. I'm not your toy. Then what do you want? I want the truth. All of it. No lies. No omissions. No games. Rachel took a deep breath. All right. The truth is that I planned everything from the moment we arrived here. The affair with the banker. The sale to the Mexicans. The deal with the police. Everything. Why? Because I wanted to be sure we were untouchable. I wanted the Argentine police to owe us favors. I wanted the local criminals to respect us. She cried. I wanted to make sure you never had to worry about our safety again. And did it work? It worked. The Argentine police consider us valuable informants. We have immunity here. We can live in peace. Nathan was silent for a long moment. Part of him wanted to get out of the car and never see Rachel again. Part of him wanted to hug her and say he understood. And part of him, the part that had been born that night in the warehouse in Boston, felt proud of the woman beside him. Rachel, he said finally, promise me something. Anything you want. Promise you won't lie to me anymore. No matter what it is, no matter how I'll react. Promise we'll be honest with each other. I promise. And promise we'll stop this life. For real this time. No more scams, more schemes, more dangers. I promise. Nathan kissed her then, a desperate and passionate kiss. He knew that Rachel would probably lie again, that there would probably be more problems in the future. But he also knew he loved her in a way he couldn't explain, a way that went beyond reason, beyond morality, beyond common sense. 2 years later, Nathan and Rachel were married and living in a house with a garden on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. Nathan gave private English lessons. Rachel worked as a freelance translator. They lived a simple, almost normal life. Almost. Because sometimes, in the sleepless early hours, they made love with a violence that reminded them of the dangerous times. Because sometimes Rachel disappeared for a few hours and came back with her eyes shining with adrenaline. Because sometimes Nathan found newspaper clippings about unsolved crimes hidden among her books. And because in the back of the closet, hidden behind winter clothes, there was still the flash drive with the recording of the Supreme Court justice. The ace up the sleeve that Rachel had never used but also never destroyed. Why do you still keep this? Nathan asked one afternoon when he found her cleaning the hiding place. I don't know. Maybe as a reminder. A reminder of what? Of who I was. Of who we were. Rachel held the flash drive against the light. Sometimes I'm afraid of forgetting. Of becoming so normal that I no longer remember the intensity we had. Do you miss it? Sometimes. She kissed him. But then I look at you and remember that the best part of it all wasn't the danger. It was you. It was the two of us against the world. Nathan took the flash drive from her hand and walked to the fireplace. Rachel didn't protest when he threw it into the fire. "Now it's over," he said. "For real." "It's over," she agreed. But they both knew it was a lie. What they had lived, what they had done together, would never really be over. It was engraved on their skin, in their blood, in the way they made love and in the way they slept, embraced every night. They had found each other in the abyss and decided to build a home down there. And now, even living on the surface, they still carried the darkness within them. A darkness that united them in a way no normal couple would ever understand. "I love you," said Rachel. "I love you too," answered Nathan. And for the first time since they met, both were telling the complete truth. The fire slowly consumed the flash drive, erasing the last trace of what they had been. But what they were now, two criminals in love pretending to be normal people that no one could burn. They had succeeded. They had found love in the most unlikely place, survived all dangers, overcome all betrayals. Now they were just David and Carmen Rodriguez, an ordinary couple in a foreign city, with a past that only they knew and a future they would build together. And when night came, they made love with the passion of those who had died and been resurrected several times. Because they knew that what they had was rare, precious, impossible to replicate. They had saved each other, and now they lived happily ever after, in their own twisted and dangerous way. As only two criminals in love could live,